Okay, now we've removed the waste from the top of the model. We've drilled a 3/4 inch hole in the fleshiest portion of the plastic down there. Because remember, this is going to take 2,000 to 3,000 pounds of force to extract. Okay, so you want it really tough down there. Put it through this clevis, and that's it. Now, this is an electric winch that pulls 2 tons. That's 4,000 pounds. That's enough force to actually rip the plastic right out of the bottom. So since this model does not have an insert on it, there's going to be a lot of tension on that plaster as he pulls it. So take it a little bit and stop. Okay, okay, hold it. Now hit it again, just a tiny bit. You got it. See it pulling out? Now you can go all the way. Very good. Now this prosthesis was just molded about 15 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. It's okay to remove them the same day. There are a couple things that may happen. If you remove it the same day, your socket may shrink equivalent to about 1 ply. And if 1 ply is an issue, leave it on the model overnight and remove it the following day. If it's not an issue, you can take it off the same day. Well, one thing that's very important is if you do remove it the same day, you have to remove the seam. Because as this plastic cools, this seam is going to be shrinking, right? So the pylon will actually bow back posteriorly if you leave the seam on overnight without being in the mandrel. So since it was molded today, we're going to cut the seam off right now. Now if you look down inside the pylon, now is when you want to examine the pylon. And you see that little tiny groove in there? I don't know if you can see it, probably maybe on that angle. That's what you call a very mild trough. Now that's definitely acceptable, but what happens is if you have too much moisture, that trough is going to get deeper and deeper, and it's going to affect the area where your pylon wall is joined. Another thing you want to examine at this point is the thickness of the pylon wall. Now, there's always certain deviations in thermoforming. Let's face it, we're not working with thousandths of an inch. But if you look at that pylon wall, it should be uniform thickness all the way around. If you see it too thin on the posterior side, something's wrong. And usually what happens is, what it is you're not following the forming template pattern, where the material is too heavy, so it's drawing down, and you're thinning out the plastic before you get your vacuum. Okay. Okay, notice here, the way we trim the seam down, that's the way you want to trim it. Always a gradual transition into the pylon. Now, for example, in this case, if the pylon's mounting and the proximal surface of the pylon is going to end up here, that's a pretty good place to start. If you want to leave it more rigid, you can gradually taper the socket further out so that you can leave it a little bit higher, and that'll make the prosthesis more rigid so that when you dynamically align it or go through the fitting stage, you can little by little trim off the posterior seam, which will in turn make the pylon more flexible. This is good for a start for this particular patient. Now, if he was a more active patient, we would probably leave more of the seam on in the beginning so that would leave us that extra meat to shave off during the fitting stages. And that's the way you want to do it. Always gradual, smooth transitions. You don't want to have your foot clamp, for example, if your foot clamp terminates here, you don't want to have your plastic full thickness and then zip right into the foot clamp, because if you do that, you're depending on just this one little location for any flexibility. You're making the whole pylon so rigid that it's going to put a tremendous amount of stress on the pylon in this area. And it'll fail if you do that. Even if you want it stiff, you have to gradually taper the seam out. Okay, this is ready to polish and assemble. Okay, this is the first one that was removed, and I want to show you the breakdown here. I'm going to take this all apart. The best time to disassemble this whole deal is right after you pull the plastic off it. Because if you notice now, take a good look at this, zoom in on this, and you'll see that the imprint from the stockinette is now into the tape. So you can see how it's compressed that tape and relieved it from tension. Okay, so you can see where the Play-Doh was filled in. I just removed the tape over there. Now, take a sharp edge, cut down the mandrel right through all layers of tape. Because if you let this tape sit on the mandrel overnight, it's going to be almost impossible to get it off. You got to use acetone and really work it. And 1 out of 3 shots I throw in the pail. The rest is on the floor.